Man, I really love that intro theme song with the drums take off.
I think it's
You
great.
guys,
You know,
you guys can't see me, but I'm
No,
dancing.
the
I think
Trump dance.
The
I
Trump
think
dance.
that the next version I do, I think I'll probably use Henry Mancini's theme from the Pink Panther.
Yeah.
So, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Cerberus at the Gate. We have rebranded. We're no longer improvising. This is we're at Hell's Gate, I guess.
Oh, we're
Cerberus
still
at
improvising.
Yeah. Flying by the seat of our pants. This is episode 59. We are airing on Saturday, January 10th, 2026. And I am joined by my two co-hosts, Mr. André Meloche and Timothy Knight. André, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I would like you to bring this small quote from Herman S. just to tell you the mood I'm in right now. So Herman S. was a German writer, Steppenwolf. It is one of his greatest novels. And he wrote, all elevated humor begins with ceasing to take oneself seriously. So I think Tim and you will agree with me. We treat serious topics, but we're not serious people. So I'm fine.
Well put. Yeah, I definitely don't take anything seriously.
No.
Mr. Timothy Knight. Tim, how are you doing, man?
Good. I'm in redecorating, trying to get rid of all the boxes and stuff that have been sitting in my tiny little office since I moved in May. So I'm not sure what to do about. In the background, I have a rooster and a hen. The rooster there and the hen there, like a little traditional Canadian thing. And just like those roosters are boys and hens are girls, just as a reminder to the audience. And they filter for those who I don't want on my damn show. But yeah, just getting ready.
Will you replace your Canadian flag with something else eventually?
I was thinking of Venezuela.
Ah,
maybe Ukraine. Oh,
Iran?
Greenland.
Iran?
Does Iran? I could make a 4-corner flag then, right? So I could support everybody. And then I can put it on my Facebook profile. I have like 4 little tiny flags. The Ukraine and Venezuela and Greenland and Iran. And then I get to put them all upside down.
And then in the foreground you would have the trans flag.
Oops. There's a glitch in the machine.
I'm going to put it on the door. So because it swings both ways.
Swings both ways. Yeah. What else do we have before we get into the serious stuff? So we got our new logo, courtesy of Mr. Knight. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Very proud of that.
Makes me happy.
We are upgrading. 3 old men discovering technology. So if you guys could all go ahead and share the space, share the room, share the stream, we can help get our message out there.
And yes, and keep in mind that Hungry Podcaster Foundation is not related in any way, shape, or form to the Oil for Food program.
It's for all the hungry podcasters of the world, but we take all the proceeds privately.
Right.
All right. Enough grab assing.
Well, just like a classical NGO.
Classical NGO. Yeah, that's true. We keep all the profits. André, you're going to be leading the show. We got a whole bunch of topics today. Something's going on in Europe. Tell us what's going on with the farmers.
Well, first of all, what is happening in Europe, and especially in France, they're starting to slaughter all the livestock in France because of a disease that they call lumpy skin disease, which is quite a virus that will destroy the skin of cows and all cattle. And they're promoting vaccine to the livestock, and if they find one case, for example, over a livestock of 200 cows, they slaughter all the cows. There's no such thing as a moderate position, and it's the only place in Europe that they're doing this. In Switzerland, they don't slaughter all the cow. It's not recommended by veterinarian. And in France now, the traditional farmer, they're rising against the government because the government is attacking them with tank armed vehicle, blocking them, arrested them. One policeman took out his gun and aimed at a farmer that was driving a tractor. The tractor, it goes what, 15 kilometers per hour. There was no such thing as a threat for the policeman, and it's uprising everywhere in France. But not only in France, it is also, you can see it also in Greece, in Poland, in Germany, in United Kingdom, in London, in Belgium, and in Ireland, and it is rising up to a point where even Macron said that they maybe will call an anticipate election, because they're afraid, and they're starting to understand that the regime of Macron will, or is in danger, and it is spreading toward all Europe. This is based on one aspect, the Mercosur, which is the free trade agreement between Europe and the South American organization, which is Brazil, Argentina, Peru, and they have, those countries like Brazil, they have mega industrial farm, so they can lower the cost of production of meat, poultry, dairy product, and they will flood the European Union with product food that are not according to the standard of European Union. So the European Union now is signing this agreement, not taking in account the European Parliament. They even bypass the European Parliament, and Ursula von der Leyen will sign the agreement. And now Macron was always for this agreement. Now he had a press conference and he declared that he is against it, and he will go against it, of course, because now he doesn't have any power anymore. So there's a big insurrection in Europe, and we don't see this nowhere in social media. In mainstream media, the only place you see this is on alternative media, social media. There's a lot of information on X that you can find. If you follow what is happening in France, but not only in France, you see that the insurrection is rising, and it is starting to wake up the people. Where people, they're saying, this is our food, this is our tradition. For example, France, they had 3,500 farms, small farms. It is not a big territory, France, and the agriculture is extraordinary. I just give you one simple example. The number of recipe that you have in France is 14,000. There's no country in the world who has as much recipe as France, because it is all regional sector. They all have their tradition, ancestral tradition. I think European Union wants to destroy this, and it is creating a huge insurrection in France, actually.
So before, Tim, I'm going to throw it to you. But before we do that, I just want to thank some people. Gary, thank you for reposting the stream. Clown World, thank you very much. Sundown95, thank you very much. Sue, a little cheeky, posting that we're three old men, but thank you very much for the repost all the same. Squirrel Nuts, thank you very much for the repost. I believe that's it. Tim, what are your thoughts?
Well, there's Mark reposting. Thank you. And they're our first time that we're on Substack posted from Sub, and it's all people on X who are watching us. That's funny. So I'm reminded of conspiracy theories that I remember hearing as far back as the 90s. So that before the internet, when you were actually getting people sending you conspiracy theories on fax machine, there was a map of the world that had been basically broken into 5 or 6 major regions, where North America was effectively the bureaucratic region, and South America was the agricultural region, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so in some degree, I see that mega regionalization beginning to happen, where you look at Europe, where Europe is intentionally deep sixing its agriculture industry in favor of a relationship with a new source, which is South America. And so in order to make way for that, they have to cook up reasons to weaken or reduce demand for local product. So, if, for example, here in Canada, you can go and buy Mexican meat products that are actually ungraded. So you can do that, and it's cheap. Right? This is on purpose, right? This is done on purpose. So do the same thing in Europe. So what we're finding is it's not even we don't even have to go so far back into history to find it. They will look for reasons like the natural Dust Bowl effect that happened after the First World War with America, right? Because what happened with that was a massive industrialization to produce for the war effort, and then afterwards, no demand. So all that labor goes into the cities, and the land is left untended and abused without being, properly remediated. And boom, you have Dust Bowl, right? So in Canada, we have the various meat, dairy, poultry, whatever, cartels, and those cartels, poultry, as we see happening lately with the ostriches, they had to get rid of the ostriches regardless, because what's underneath that are the tens of millions of poultry that are destroyed on a regular annual basis across the country. The same way that the milk board throws out 6 million liters worth of milk every year to manage quotas, they do the same thing with poultry. But that doesn't make the news because the farmers are not going to bite the hands that feeds them. So the ostrich thing becomes very public, because if they were able to protect the ostriches from the cull, which is supply management, then the farmers would be able to, right, the poultry farmers would speak up and have a legitimate voice to say, hey, wait a minute, why am I killing 20 million of my birds? They do it over in America. They'll do it over in Europe now, saying, oh, look, flu, right? You got a virus, so we have to and like the vet's saying, just call the ones that are most likely to be catching it or already have it. Don't call a herd of 10,000 animals. What's wrong with you? But they're doing it anyway. That's the mask. That's the story. But underneath, they're intentionally manipulating the market supply, the supply and demand, by messing with the supply to force buyers to buy from external, to buy import. So you destroy the local ability to produce, and you outprice it, right? You make it more expensive because you apply much higher quality control on local source. In Canada, AAA beef, right? AAA, we have our grading system, and those are very high demands. No hormones during growth, et cetera, all these are high demands, which raises our local prices for local product. You bring it in from Argentina, and trade agreements say, yeah, it can come in. So it completely undermines the local market. That's intentional.
Do you want to respond, André, and then I'll follow up?
Yeah, it's interesting what you're mentioning, because it reminds me of the what they call the CETA, Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement between Europe and Canada. And at the time, there was a big scandal, because you compare the beef in Canada with the beef in France, for example. When you say 100% beef in Canada, you can have flour or ingredient or additive after. In France, it is illegal. If you say 100% beef in France, you cannot have additive, nothing. And there was a big conflict between Canada and Europe. And even if they signed their agreement, they had quotas. They could not import more of Canadian beef. They were saying that they didn't want Canadian beef. And when you're looking what is happening right now, the standard of quality are in France are the highest in the European Union. So they will try to target the highest standard to lower the standard. I will just say something that is important. 6 farmers died in the last 10 days in France. Suicide, 1 died of a heart attack on the barricade. You can imagine, the police arrive with armed vehicle, they attack with the police, they attack farmers, and they arrive in the farm, they slaughter 300, 400, 500 cows. And after that, and it's the life work of a person. And they are completely desperate. So desperate that you feel this movement of insurrection in France reminds a lot of French people that they had the 1789 revolution. And I think the power in France knows it. History will not repeat itself, but the history of France is there to remind people that if you don't defend your freedom of first of all eating food that is healthy, what will be next?
So the producers are producing quality food in North America and Europe. They are producing quality food. But by the time it gets through the purchaser and the packager and out to the sales, it's been watered down. Its quality has been diluted. And that's intentional because you have industrialization now, almost perfectly vertical integration, where a hog producer is actually owned by via various contracts and means Maple Leaf Foods. So everything in between, right? So production, veterinary, food, maintenance, construction, distribution, culling, right? Processing, packaging, marketing, retailing. All of this is in one line. And in so doing, they continue to bleed profit to the bottom end, and the product becomes watered down because now they're trying to stretch out every last dollar. Because there's not a whole lot. There's no real profit in agriculture except through industrialization. It must be mass produced. So when, for example, when your profit for a 250-pound hog, now this is 20-year-old information, is about 9 cents. Your profit for a 250-pound is like 9 cents. I think I could be wrong. It could be 9 cents a pound. How much meat do you have to produce? Like tons and tons and tons and tons to make anything worth the effort. So they industrialize in order to maximize the effort. And like Gary Halecki just said a few minutes ago, everyone gets paid along the way. And this is the problem.
The integration you mentioned is very important. The fact that everybody takes a profit and the mass production, those mega farm, will lower the price, and they will also lower the quality of food. The disease is supposed to be dangerous. It is not. It cannot be spread to men, first of all, and they are slaughtering all the livestock. The livestock. They don't care. And what is fascinating is because it is arriving in France, people who speak French, they will follow this. I've noticed that on X, for example, on some alternative media, they don't relay the information necessarily because they're not connected to it.
I was talking to a farmer down here, and we're talking about NAFTA. So he said that food comes cheaper from Mexico than it does, locally, and he said that's bad for the local farmer, but it's good for the consumer. And then we started talking about, I'm in Florida. You start talking about Florida versus California. And he goes, California's got better soil. They got more water, more rain. So they get better yields. So their foods are cheaper. And they're also competing with foods from California. My point is, like, this is trade. With technology advancing, this isn't the 1700s where you have your local farmer, everybody grows their own food. Now you're either competing globally because of NAFTA, you're even competing nationally with other parts of the country. And it's a situation where it's almost like what we're seeing with China, where we're outsourcing our industry to China because it's cheaper. Screw the working class, screw the industry. We're getting cheaper TVs. Same thing here. Screw the farmer. We're getting cheaper food. And I feel like there's no way out of that.
I look at this from a business executive position, and where in my experience, when competing companies battle it out on price, so they lower the price and they lower the price and they lower the price until eventually they have to stop supplying this service and support because they can no longer afford it because there's no profit. And so you have an entire culture that forces companies to compete on price. And it's companies that started this. I'm not saying it's the consumer. The consumer will always be price sensitive. But the companies say we are satisfied to compete on price. So we're not competing on quality or deliverables or service and support or et cetera, et cetera. They're not competing on that or volume or what they're competing on price. So in so doing, you literally train the consumer to expect and aim for the lowest price. Quality goes out the window. Volume is part of that, right? So it's at low price, high volume, et cetera. But so what you get over time is you get the Walmart effect, where it doesn't matter if I can buy the same type of thing at higher quality locally because it's going to cost more because it's locally made. If I can buy the same product that only lasts half as long because it's a piece of shit from China, then I only pay $5 for that mouse instead of buying a mouse actually built in America, which is 4 times the price, but it'll last 3 years. We have literally trained the population, the consumer, to compete on price. So this is where we are with these massive industrialization is the response. You compete not on price, you compete on volume, or not you compete. You make your profit through volume, not on the individual item. And so this is where we are. And now governments are susceptible to this because they know that they can't get much more tax out of the people because we're pretty much capped. Right? They can't get much more out of it. So then they move off to the business side, off to the deregulation side, and they make handshake agreements over the side. So then you have agreements with South America. McDonald's back in the 90s McDonald's Canada was bragging that they were getting their beef from free-range cattle in Argentina, et cetera, et cetera. What the truth was, our Argentine government was financing deforestation on a monstrous scale, and it ended up being organizations like Greenpeace that actually pushed back and got McDonald's to say, "Okay, fine, we get it. We'll buy local." So now they're bragging, have been for 20 years, bragging about buying Canadian beef. Well, no, it's because you were forced to do it. And oddly enough, they were forced to do the right thing by the tree huggers. Go figure.
Well, I think one thing that I will add, think about France and about all those traditional farm. They have a high standard of quality. I visit France many times. I know the culture. I can guarantee you what is the take on the long term? Healthcare. You eat crap. One day and I give one simple example. Now Ukraine is flooding Europe, even if it is not part of the European Union, is flooding Europe with cheap poultry and poultry that has no standard of quality. It is not even tagged in the supermarket. Now they're going in the supermarket. The Leclerc is a big supermarket like Walmart. And they are going there and they're showing how the quality of food is completely destroyed, even if they have the laws or the regulation to support it. The government is not even respecting its own laws, and the government is screwing the farmer since maybe 15 years. You arrive at a point where France is trying to compensate for this agreement, this huge agreement. Nobody can survive. All the small or middle farm, they're disappearing for the benefit of who? This is what is the real question. And after that, you have the culture of the country. The national culture is being destroyed. Simple.
Andre, I think Tim is sort of saying the same. Tim and I are saying sort of the same thing. The people are committing suicide almost because they are price driven. So you got these farmers that they're trying to move into a rural direction, the community farm, buy local. And then you have the urban centers, it's just the people. The only thing or the most important thing for them is cost. So if you can get something cheaper from South America or Ukraine, how do we get around that? Like, does anyone have a solution for that?
The Canadian government takes 65% of every dollar I earn. Right. So before I even get home, I'm price sensitive. You add that to a culture that for 50, 60 years, we've created a culture of price sensitivity. We will eschew quality to get more on my plate. And we are doing that that's detrimental. Like Andre mentioned, what's going to happen to the health of the population over time when we choose unregulated meat products from foreign countries that have little to no regulatory or no CFIA, no FDA, like not even those, which are something, right? That yes, they're crooked, but they're something, and they don't even have those. So we've already seen in the 90s what Argentina is entirely prepared to do to get into the international market, which is burn down its own forests and subsidize its own meat production in order to compete on the national market. So these are all of these are drivers to globalization. Like I said at the top of the show, we've seen this team see the country, the planet in these geopolitical zones, right? Where the North America is more the bureaucratic zone, right? So the governing body zone. So, right? So you got South America with Brazil and Argentina being such massive arable land masses that consider them the new, right? Consider them the new pasture land, etc. So that and then all this development out throughout the world. If that's the case, and this is what's happening, then it is natural. See, that we think, where's this coming from? No, this is natural. As Europe, France in particular, because France has a very culinary culture, right? Italy, right? Very culinary cultures, right? So that you attack their food source, then you attack their culture. And even
Exactly.
if the people, right? And even if the people living there don't understand this visibly, they feel it culturally because they're like, what? I have to pay that much for that? I never, 10 years ago, I paid this much. Why is it so much expensive now? And I don't want to buy this bread product from, over and stuff from such, because it's not the same. It doesn't, and it's not. And they can tell because that's their culture.
The long-term tendency, I will end on that. The long-term tendency since 30, 40 years is globalization. We
Yep.
can see we can see that it is ending now because Robert Kennedy Jr. now is talking about healthy food in the United States.
Mm.
It seems that European Union will sign this agreement, which is called Mercosur, but they will sign it against the will of nation.
Yeah.
So before moving on to the next topic, thank you, JT, for the repost. A Fierce Lioness, thank you for the repost. Remanded, thank you. Sue, thank you for reminding everyone to repost. And Kirk, thank you for the repost. We're trying something different now. Every segment will answer any questions that are related to the segment. Before moving on, JT says, start buying in bulk from more farmer direct
Yes.
sources. Consider
Yes.
one half cow between a few
Yes.
people, ideally with other family
Yes.
members. I laugh,
Yes.
but I'm just thinking it might be a little
Yeah.
bit difficult in the studio
Well,
apartment.
it's what happens when the family's saying, "But I wanted the left half of the cow."
Well, they can cut
They're
it
lib-
like
they're they're li- they're
lengthwise,
liberal.
or someone gets
They're
the front.
liberal.
They're liberal. I want the
I'm
liberal
reminded
half.
of Solomon, King Solomon.
Right. But yes, finding ways that you can support, like the idea of buying a quarter beef or buying a half beef, and if you have you and your extended family, just have it. Oftentimes, a local farmer or producer will offer it, but off book type of thing, and then they'll know a butcher and they'll package it, and then you can, right, and then your whole family just gets together and you make the purchase, and then you parcel it out, and you're done. And it's very very cost competitive, and also you guarantee the quality of what you want.
Well,
Okay.
you're right, but the big problem with, let's say, 75% of the population is they don't have access to this type of local business. They live in big cities, so of course, and even if in smaller city, they will have the tendency to go to Walmart, to Costco, because it's faster and cheaper. And yes, it is possible, but then after that, you have to be able to let's say split half a beef or something. And it's not everybody who will commit. I give an example. I have a small farm here. I buy my beef here. I can buy a quarter of beef, $500. Do you think people for about 50 kilogram of beef? It's not a lot. You say, well, can you pay upfront $500? A lot of people cannot, so they go week by week, and we see that what is happening now. But yes, it is a good suggestion.
I'll just say I also think it's urbanization. That's a problem. So the erosion of the culture, the moving from the rural sort of community-based farming to the cities, it changes everything. Like people want to go to Starbucks, they want A&W, Pizza Hut. They don't want to like what Andre's doing.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
I understand convenience, but that's also culturally taught, right? You teach your children to prefer convenience over quality or convenience over effort. You teach your children to do that. And
Yes.
certainly since the 70s, all of North American culture has been very, very keen to promote convenience. Look at the convenience store, right? Literally, the corner store was literally called the convenience store. It's right there in the word. And so by teaching us this, and we accept that this is the way the world works, then those outside of that who know better are able to manipulate it.
You're right.
We Are Charlie Kirk says the world is not as neighborly as it was 30 years ago. And Clown World says I buy directly from my local butcher 3 months worth from a farm in Quebec.
Good.
You should get together with Clown World, Andre. You guys could buy in bulk.
Yes, yes, she's right. She's right.
Okay, let's move on. I'll keep an eye on the questions and we'll go from segment to segment. The next thing we wanted to talk about is Venezuela. I look at Venezuela, it is a regime change. It's a violation of international law. We're moving towards well, yeah, I hope it is. Otherwise, somebody moves in and kidnaps Donald Trump. We'll see what happens. But I'm just moving past that, and I'm thinking if you assume that the United States they're the good guys, and Iran and China they're the bad guys, kind of what Donald Trump did makes sense. He's solidifying in Fortress America. So this is the whole Don Road doctrine. Andre.
I do agree with you, but the way he's doing it is quite he was criticized by his own party. He was criticized by many political analysts about how he did it and how Maduro was betrayed by many people inside of the government of Venezuela. Then the means to do it are, they're quite funny because he's talking about oil in Venezuela. All economists, they say that you cannot refine this type of oil easily, and it will have a very little impact on the price at the pump. I will remind people that during the Biden era, the Biden administration was digging into the strategic reserve for 2 years, 2018, 2020, 2022, 2024, to keep the price low because the price at the pump was rising too fast, and they dig into the strategic reserve like they never did before. When Trump is saying, "I will annex," or we will manage Venezuela, and he will name a government, Marco Rubio, whoever it is, they arrive at the point where they want to show that they control the American continent. What I see it as the American continent. Technically or theoretically, it is true, but in fact, they were saying that China will be jeopardized. China is importing 4% of its stock. 4%, that has practically no impact, and China is trying to replace this importation of oil by Iranian oil. So, doing things like this does not help what I would call international order, if there is one.
My turn.
Your turn.
Is it my turn? My turn. Just one more thing. Just one more thing. I look at it this way: Trump equals new money. Europe equals old money, right? And the old money is always angry. Number one, that the new money got their money so goddamn fast, as opposed to the old money, which took, I think, 16 generations to get it. And the new money has the ego and the bravado right? So that's the Americana post 1920 type of thing. And so Trump goes in all bluster and all ego and all excited, and he has all the money. And Europe, Europe is the sick man of Europe, right? All of it, right? So consider that Turkey might actually be on a resurgence. So who knows? But it'll be Europe is the sick man of Europe. So they're all whining and complaining because they want things done in the old way. They want things done in the old way, and Trump's like, no, America's tired of doing it the old way. Go screw yourself. So by securing Venezuela, be it a lawfare action or a police action or an arrest or whatever you want to call it, right? It's piracy, one way you want to call it that, right? Which is actually the Venezuelan tanker, right? The Venezuelan tanker going up to Russia and then switches flags to Russia. That's actually an act of legitimate piracy. Switching your flags is an act of piracy. Right. So, and nobody cares about that. Nobody's making any noise about that at all. So he goes down and secures Venezuela, which means now the Gulf of America actually stretches all the way down to Venezuela. So now it's the whole Gulf. So now he has effectively secured the Panama Canal. That's what I think. He has effectively secured the Panama Canal. What's next? Greenland. So what happens if he actually, and what chances are he'll make some type of trade agreement or, shared state agreement where he'll say, listen, we've been guarding the western half of Greenland with two submarine bases for the last 70 years. Give us some concessions here. That way they get control of the Greenland Baffin Island access to the Northwest Passage above northern Canada and over on the west side with Alaska Bering Strait. So they have control of the Northwest Passage entrance and exits. And in so doing, they can force Canada to build those 3 deep water ports that they've been itching to get Canada to build for the last 50 years, but Canada won't because Canada's a bunch of cheapos, and they think that the North is still full of ice, no matter what they tell you it's. So he has effectively secured North America, right? So the what was saying, if boots on the ground, you must own property, or at least have claim to property. In so doing, what he's doing is establishing a legal claim. And if everybody goes, yeah, we know it's wrong, but nobody fights it, then it's legal, right? Then it's legal. It's just accepted, and it's legal, right? China does it. Nobody complains about China doing it. China impinges on Tibetan land, and nobody bitches about it, right? Because so if he makes an agreement with Denmark, which he probably will, we're going to take the west coast of Denmark or Greenland, and that'll be ours. Why? Because he wants to secure the Northwest Passage. So he secures Panama. He was joking about this mid last year. Secure Panama Canal and secure the North Atlantic, the Arctic Ocean. And then we have a super state. It doesn't even have to be one flag. It'll be like 8 different flags, right? Because it'll go all the way down to Panama. And he'll effectively have North America, one super state. And Europe's over there going, oh, shit.
I kind of agree. I would just say what he's done is masterful.
Yeah.
I want to move this segment along, so I'm going to bring up some comments and then I'll give it to Andre. Unacceptable says, how long will it take to create infrastructure to harvest the oil in Venezuela? Sue Kellen Dyer says they already have the infrastructure. She also says the USA has 25 massive refineries for sour crude. They replaced past Venezuelan oil with a similar product from Alberta. What are your thoughts, Andre?
Well, first of all, the infrastructure in Venezuela are crumbling. And don't forget, if I go back, maybe you don't have the map, but Venezuela now is producing 700,000 barrels of crude oil per day, which is practically nothing for the OPEC organization. You can compare this with Iran, you can compare this with Russia, but most of it with Iran. And it is quite interesting to see that those infrastructure are not only they're crumbling, but they are all the knowledge has left Venezuela. You cannot restart, to dig or to extract this oil easily. It will take years to restructure the industry. My feeling is that Trump is bluffing a lot. He's bluffing, and it is the symptom of a failed empire. And the only way that he can either save the empire or bring it to a transition towards something new, is forcing the hand of other players. Europe, Greenland, forget about Greenland, Denmark, there's nothing. You have 50,000 people. It's a joke. It's a joke. You don't even ask them the permission. Just arrive there with 3-4 helicopters, and that's it. It's over. And you arrive with a suitcase of money, and you give them $100,000 each, and they will all be happy. Exactly what they did with you.
Give them a couple of Ford F-150s.
That's true.
What I've noticed is that if you have three big poles like China, Russia, Iran, Europe, even if Europe is crumbling, you could say Europe is a pole, and you could say the North American alliance. Mm-hmm. There's one big problem. It is Canada, because Canada is infiltrated by Chinese structure. And why Chinese invested a lot of money in Venezuela in the last 15 years in infrastructure. Do you really think that China will let go this type of investment? No. So they will arrive and they will start to undermine the power of Canada. How come Carney now is going to Beijing, and he's bringing his new MP, which is Michael Ma, who was a conservative before Christmas. Wow, I'm impressed. So I think Trump is seeing the threat that could the threat that could come from China. And he's saying, okay, how can I secure the structure of the North American alliance with Greenland, with the South American countries, United States and Canada? I think he's bluffing, because on the international context, he will have to face Putin with Ukraine. He will have to face China with Taiwan. Now China can arrive and say, okay, I take Taiwan. Forget about your nanotechnology. We own it now, and that's it. And we will just declare an embargo, and that's it. You cannot shift industries like this fast. It takes a lot of time to shift it, and you need industrial who will accept this. So you have an effect of you do something very fast. What will be the consequences on long term? I think we will still be surprised with what is happening, because this gambit that he's doing, it infuriates a lot of people. It irritates a lot of people, but there's a lot of people who will react, and they will say, okay, now that you do this, we will react differently. Giorgia Meloni arrived and she said, wait a second, Greenland. Denmark is a NATO country. Keir Starmer said, okay, we will have to fight the United States. Friedrich Merz in Germany said, we have to fight the United States, boots on the ground. They're fighting each other inside NATO. And I think that's what Trump wanted to do, to shake the jar of ants, so to see how they will react. Yeah. So he will see who are his allies and who are his real enemy.
Andre, Tim, do you want to say anything? I want to move on to Greenland as well.
No, I like this. My view is very similar to this. Is he lying? Sometimes. Is it strategic? All the time. Right? We still haven't gotten over the bluster, right? And the big show, the reality star. And the thing is, he brought this into reality TV. He remade reality TV, bringing in his real estate bravado and that big, larger than life character. He brought that in, and now he's taken all of that into federal. Right now, he's taken all of that into the command chair, and because the Europe, for hundreds of years, said this is the way we do business, long and slow. You'll do what we told you to do, or we'll put your thumbs into thumb screws. And he looks at Europe and says, not doing it, not doing it. I am remembering why we rebelled against you in the first place. Right. So is there the increased risk of China's relationship with Canada pushing on the largest uncontested border on the entire planet? Absolutely. But by securing, he already has, I think, 2 naval bases on the west coast of Greenland,
Exactly.
patrolling the Northwest Passage because, for reason, and the Anchorage, right? And they probably have stations up in the Bering Strait itself, watching and keeping an eye on the Mongolian and Siberia, and obviously, keeping an eye on Japan, because who knows what they're really up to, right? They could research, who knows, they could get themselves another god. So while he's busy making noise about Venezuela, what he's really doing is securing the Panama Canal. When he's making noise about Greenland, he's securing the Northwest Passage. All he has to do is throw some actual money into California naval bases, the Seattle naval bases, the Anchorage naval bases, security activity on the Greenland naval bases, and make them more visible, because you need to be visible to be an actual threat to the public. He sets up all these things. He talks about, we have the infrastructure in Venezuela. Yeah, it's crumbling. It's a fact. I'm going to say the name wrong. Cape of Good Hope. No, South America. So sorry, South Africa, capital city. I keep screwing up the name. Their infrastructure's gone to, right? Their infrastructure has gone to complete shit in that city. They were in a water crisis back in 2018 because they're busy chasing away all of the quality technicians because of the stupid reverse social engineering garbage. So that kind of infrastructure, yeah, it could take years to rebuild, but in the meantime, you get bodies in there, and you can get. See, I think America's moving into a place where it's become too big to fail, and he knows it, and he also knows the clock is ticking. He has 2 years left to make this happen, because guaranteed there will be a Democrat as the next president. So guaranteed.
I want to move this along. Andre, you can say whatever you want in the next segment, but I want to move it along to Greenland. Let's bring up Doug's comment.
Yes.
He says the U.S. purchased Alaska. Why not purchase Greenland?
And that probably
well, I would just say, why purchase it when you can just take it? First of all, I just want to say something.
$8 million. Bottom line.
I just want to say something about China. I think the data is right, but in 2008, China was having $3,000 billion of US bonds. Actually, now they are down to $688 billion. They're getting out of the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that frightens United States, because if they fail to secure investment on a long term, the dollar as a reserve currency or trading currency is over. And it is not because the BRICS are threatening them. It's because United States has this tendency of acting like an empire. They want something, they take it. There's the rest of the world who are not accepting this anymore, then they will resist.
So then de-dollarization is also on our list of things to talk about today. So let's look at de-dollarization, but from a different avenue. We think that he wants to decouple, right, the dollar from oil, right, to escape OPEC. But if he owns Venezuela, which is about half of OPEC's output, right, if I can secure that against which I am measuring my fiat, then my fiat is secure. So if he says, I'm not measuring my dollar, the US dollar, against OPEC oil, I'm measuring it against America oil. Why not?
I want to say, I think America's the only adult in the room. Like this Trump administration, he says the dumbest stuff. Like you can't listen to what he says. But the things that they do, they're logical, like the divorcing from Europe, getting out of the Ukraine war, whatever we think of it, taking over Venezuela.
Well, are they really getting out of the Ukraine war? Russia 2 days ago hit with Iskander United States industry in Ukraine. Are they really getting out of it?
You're skipping ahead, but like
no, but come on,
we just Canada. We gave $2.5 billion to Ukraine. America told Zelensky to go pound sand. Like at least they're trying to. I don't know where I was going with that, but
de-dollarization.
Yes, but what I mean is like Donald Trump is he's doing some right things. Sue Calendar says all Greenland political parties want independence from Denmark. They all claim they were annexed by Denmark. What are your thoughts?
Because they were. because they were. They don't claim, they were.
They
It's
all
true.
they all
It's
want
true.
their they all want their independence, just like
Yes.
Albertan wants their
Right.
independence. And I'm sorry, who can care about what people think, even if
Let's
there's a
this
referendum?
yes.
It
This is
doesn't
the
care
perfect
on the
right.
international geopolitical sphere.
Yeah.
When do you ask peasants their opinion?
So the two words now: Denmark, Kosovo, right? America,
Yes.
America, Greenland. What's the fucking difference, right? When Denmark was, when was that? 2011, right? Kosovo fought Serbia for independence,
Kosovo.
something like right. Kosovo and Serbia, and at that time, Denmark and a bunch of other European idiot nations said, "Oh, we're support Kosovo's independence." And meanwhile, now they've actually publicly retracted their support for Kosovo. Why? Because it sets precedent for the United States to lay claim to Greenland. So they're trying to, it's like no takes backsies. Well, you can't do that. The time machine only goes in one direction. And here they are. And so it's in Europe, not just England. Britain is its own special breed of lobotomization right now. Europe is so used to doing things the old way. Even the oligarchy, because they're still connected, right, to family bloodlines. They're still connected to all those lines. They still think the old way. Like in Germany, when I was in high school and college, they talked about how Germany had a distinctly different way of looking at investing because they took their money, put it in the fund, and walked away for 25 years because they knew that the long, slow incline was the way. Whereas the Western world, the new money was just getting into day trading, right? So they're taking spikes on 5-minute trades and stuff like that. It's a very different viewpoint. But over in the West, in spite of our sheer size, in spite of the massive debt of the whole of North America, we are very much more agile than Europe. Much more agile. And it's this agility that Trump is able to take advantage of. When someone says, who would have thought that Trump would go into Venezuela? And he did it in what? 4-hour operation? I mean, it probably took 6 months planning, but right? That's fast. Europe
Andre,
can't do it.
Come on. That's Hollywood. That's Hollywood. He may be agile, but is he efficient? And you talk about
That's not
old
important.
money. I do agree with you on old money, the old European way. But when you think about what Friedrich Nietzsche said about we will have boots on the ground in Ukraine, I think he's forgetting that when they reunified Ukraine, the condition was demilitarized and denazified Germany. Now we hear the same thing with Ukraine.
Yeah.
So I think Trump is understanding one aspect of the game, not all of it.
But he doesn't need, again, if I'm the captain of a team, I don't need to understand all of my individual players. I simply need to know their role and to look at them and go, this is your role. You do that role. If you do not do that role, I will know because the guys who are supporting you, they will suffer. So I don't need to know how to be a CPA. I just need to be able to look over an accountant's shoulder and identify when he's taking grift.
Right? Yes, but one thing, Trump, the regime change. It's like you take your shoes and you hit the nail with your shoes because you don't have a hammer. They always use the same tactic and the same strategy, which is built in by the CIA. So they always use this thinking and it works. Well, it doesn't work. It looks good on paper. We will see on the long term what will happen with Venezuela and how it will unfold. Because we're seeing is that many people in Venezuela are behind Maduro. The government did not fall. The government did not fall.
I get what you're saying, Andre. I just wanted to move it along because we have to talk about Iran and Ukraine as well. I wanted to get your opinion. We'll go Andre and then Tim first. Andre mentioned, China has infiltrated Canada. What's going to happen? I really think when I say America is the only adult in the room, I think he's just taking the chess pieces off the chessboard. Like he's got Venezuela, he's got the oil, so now we don't have the leverage. He's going to take Greenland. We have UNDRIP that's already, sodomizing Canada. Carney. Oh, and they just got out of the green Green Climate Fund from the
That's right.
UN. So they're
Yeah.
going to be more productive. I think Carney's absolutely screwed. Like he's kneecapped Carney. Andre, let's go to you first. What do you think?
Well, yes, of course, Trump just got out of the IPCC, which is the International Panel on Climate Change. And you say the United States are the only adult in the room. No. China is also an adult, and Russia and Iran are also adult. Those are big players. Those are the great players. Forget about the junior European Union. I think they're losing ground strategically. They don't know how to react, and they become very aggressive. Uh, I'm sorry, the tectonic geopolitic sphere is moving. How it will freeze, I don't know. But the North American or the American alliance would be a way to preserve balance of power between three superpowers: America, China, Iran, Russia. And I will not even include India, because India, it's like it's like a joker. You never know where it will go. So I think that those are high strategy. And I would not be surprised to see it is Dmitry Medvedev, the vice president of the Security Council of Russia, that said, "Okay, now that Trump took Maduro, you will not disagree that we will take Zelensky and we will bring him to Moscow and we will put him on trial." Nobody react. There's no. And Witkoff did not react. Rubio did not react. Trump, of course, they don't react because they're so afraid that they would do it.
Tim.
I want to see the reality. No, I want to see the live camera of a 30-hour operation where they go and they pick up Zelensky, put him into a canvas bag, and bring him over to Belarus.
No, they're tying him to the back of a T-34 tank and they're dragging him to Moscow.
I don't think that it will happen the same way in Ukraine. It will not be like this in Ukraine.
I don't think it will. I don't think it will, because Europe has too much money wrapped up in this, right? And I get that. It's just, are we not moving into an era of very high theater, right? So the hyperbole of all these actions, this acceleration of theatrical, political, trade language and law language and stuff, with Japan making statements about, we need this technology is of a survival nature for Japan, and China responds by saying, well, anything that we're trading to you that could remotely be used in a military fashion, we're now not trading with you, because now you're talking war language, and we don't want to give you an advantage. Yeah, the laundromat's open 24/7. Meanwhile,
of course.
the laundromat is the laundromat is the center of a city with like 14 ghettos, right? So every time someone goes to the laundromat, you have no idea what color they are or what part of town they're from or which one is running what business or not. And so they all just go into the laundromat together, and they pay their money, and they do their laundry, and they go back out. And that's Europe.
Well, that's Europe, and I can guarantee you, when you think about Iran or Russia, we will talk about Russia and Iran. But what Trump did, it's Hollywood, and it works. If you want to follow Andrei Martyanov when he's talking about the difference between the strategy of Russia, for example, and the strategy of the United States, he said Russia, it is boots on the ground. They know how to make war. United States, they're very good at special operation. It goes fast, they take it, and they get out. But after that, if they stay, I think if I'm not wrong, somebody said Venezuela will be the if they go there, it will be the Vietnam of the 21st century. I think that Trump that will not like to be remembered as a president who will dig the United States in the Vietnam 2.0.
Sounds like something Colonel McGregor would say. Let's move on to the next topic, which is Iran. And I'm just going to make a very basic observation. The level of misinformation online with what's going on in Iran, it makes it so that it's impossible to understand what's going on. If I was the CIA and I wanted to make it difficult to know, I would play both sides. So they put out 10 million posts saying Iran's going to fall and 10 million posts saying that Iran is strong, and it's impossible to tell what's real or what's fake. Tim?
Pick your bet. You said something very important. I will be very brief. Whether it is mainstream media or alternative media. Yesterday, you told me, Peyman, on Telegram, you said, how come in about 4 or 5 hours you posted about 80 comments? And I said, no, my wife is not in Russia. She's still here. The level of disinformation on mainstream media is as high as the level of disinformation or interpretation on alternative media, X, whatever you use. And this is why people are reacting emotionally. If we try to reason with what is happening in Iran, I'm sorry. I think people, they forgot June, what happened between Israel and Iran. Do you really think that what happened in June 2025 cannot happen again? Do you really think that Iranian people will overthrow the regime? Maybe we should say to people who are speculating, maybe we let Iranian decide and we get out of there with our disinformation on both sides. I see a lot of disinformation, and it is fascinating. People, they amplify their narrative. You say something so often that you start to believe your own lies.
The drawback with social media is the social media, even though like 85% of the population has social media account of some type with at least one platform, the truth of the matter is really only about 15%, maybe 20% of any demographic are actually actively engaging with, right, sharing, commenting, etc., with social media. And that percentage of the population that's their world. That's what they see, right? So it's the same as us telling people, wow, you got to stop watching the CBC because it's all propaganda. It's all this, it's all that. However, here we are with our head stuck in X, or our head stuck in TikTok, or our head stuck in LinkedIn, or our head stuck in, et cetera, Facebook or whatever. And if that comprises the bulk of your day, or even a couple of hours throughout the day, you are going to spit back what it taught you. So if the powers that be, and we know that politicians are much more engaged in active social media manipulation than they were even 2 years ago, then you know that they are actively taking part. Like Peyman said, there's so much disinformation that may actually be intentional operations or programs of both sides, or one side playing both sides in order to retain this churn, right? This churn. In order to retain that. So here we are, and we're our denizens of the internet. This is our home. This is where we live. This is where we work. Lots of us, this is where we're trying to make some money, et cetera, et cetera. Have we unintentionally siloed ourselves? And those who are in this silo, are they not much more easy to manipulate? I mean, how long before I look into the sky and go, oh, it's a dome with little tiny lights poked into it, and one day a lamp marked Sirius falls down at my feet, and I just go, oh, well, whatever. So Iran, leave Iran to the Iranians. I don't live there. I know people who have. I know people who've done business there, and there are good people, there are bad people, but that's an individual basis. What's happening with Iran on a large scale? Nobody really knows. Nobody knows. Right. And there are people that have actual, contacts in Iran, and they themselves can't give you specific answers. So why are we always sticking our finger in someone else's pie? Right. Yeah, but a silo is still a silo, clown. Good, bad, doesn't matter. Silo is still a silo. Right. So regarding Iran or Venezuela, we sit here in the quote unquote comfort, living in comfort, right? I can go upstairs to my kitchen and I can eat food, right? I can sit down here and have internet. I'm in comfort. I got a nice cushy couch sitting right there for me to relax after the show, and I can poke my fingers at whatever country I want to in relative safety, right? So yes, and I am being facetious. No, I don't apologize for that. What?
All right. This is not a one-way conversation.
I know, right? Now I'm reading comments live. So the all we're doing is trying to generate conversation. And even if we say, well, I predict this, we're simply trying to generate conversation so that our audience here who's with us live can participate and we have conversation. And then maybe somebody later watches the show and says, oh, I like that idea. Oh, these guys are idiots. What want to generate conversation? Because regardless of where you sit on the spectrum, you should have the freedom to make your own expression and speak your own mind. And we want to make that possible.
This segment on Iran is not as long as I thought it would be. I'll just say I don't think Iran is going to survive much longer because they've lost the support of the majority of the people, and they've destroyed the economy. So I don't think this will last much longer.
So where will it go?
Who destroyed the economy? The sanctions or the government? That's a good question, because I can say the same thing for Canada. Who destroyed the economy in Canada? The people
Trudeau?
or the government? And who's always trying to overthrow a regime, whether it is in Venezuela or everywhere? They tried this in Russia in 2022 with Prigozhin. They were trying to overthrow the regime of Putin in 2022 and fomenting an insurrection. I always feel the same taste. It was Navalny was a savior of Russia. Then it was I forgot the name of the
André,
the man who was. It is always the same, always the same.
André, I know what you're saying, but so Sue says majority of people want Islamic regime out. If I
That's
go to
not
Iranian,
true. I disagree.
No,
she doesn't know nothing about what is happening in Iran. She's speculating like many people.
No. What I mean is, if I go to an Iranian and I say, America and Israel are behind this, a lot of them will say, Peyman, we don't care. We just want to be able to eat. We just need this Islamic regime gone. I think
you have 2 million people of citizens in Canada who are in food banks every month. Take care of your country, leave other country. If this is sovereignty, if you expect sovereignty in Canada, respect the sovereignty of other people, whether it is Russia. We will talk about Ukraine later. That will be funny because the zone of influence is always like this. The Western civilization is very great, but they think that they're morally superior. They're not.
I don't know. We're not disagreeing. I'm just saying the majority of Iranians are just tired. Like they haven't been able to breathe.
They're tired of what? They're tired of what? 25 years of sanctions imposed by the United States. That's a very big burden on a country.
No, listen. You might be right, but I can't convince them that America is the
right
cause
question.
of the problem. They want to be slaves. They'd rather be slaves and happy than be free and miserable.
Well, if they want to be slave and happy, they will be slave of the United States. They will have to accept also what they call the value of the Western civilization, which what we have now: LGBT, transgenderism. Let's go abortion. We can. There's a long list of it. There's a long list of it. Let's not be moral with other people when we are immoral in our own country. We have to start here.
What do you think, Tim?
I'm getting popcorn. Go, two of you, go at it.
No, it's fine. Doug Bebb always throwing me under the bus. He says, "Why does Peyman think Iran is so close to the end? Will the CIA succeed in reinstalling the Shah's son?" Tim, why don't you respond to that?
I plead the fifth because it's what I see. What I see in Iran is what information that does get out. I have to look at it through the same lens as what I see come out of China, right? Nothing leaves China that China does not know about. Therefore, it leaves with China's blessing. To what end, who knows? But it leaves China's airspace with China's blessing. So what's coming out of Iran, right? If they are capable of blocking, translink signals, then they are capable of opening other signals and maintaining the internet gates at will. So is it CIA? Is it Mossad? Is it KGB? Is it PRC? Is it Ma and Pa Kettle? I dare say it's all of them, right? I dare say it's all of them, because let's say that Iran did go back to a secular state. What would that mean for Arabia? What would it mean for Israel? What do you mean? Israel says what? Wait, we have no enemy. Now what? They go find another enemy.
Oh, they'll find ones. Andre, let's go to you before we move on to the Ukraine. I'll give you another example. Like if I were to say to an Iranian in Iran, um, if this happens, America is going to carve up Iran into multiple smaller countries, and BlackRock's going to move in. They still wouldn't listen to me. They're like, "Yeah, we don't care. We can't live like this under the Islamic rule."
Well, I'm not that sure. I'm not that sure because when we see what was happening, I was watching some protests, and you always have this same tendency of they focus on what there were 3,500 people in Tehran who were protesting or doing manifestation. Uh, uh, let's not. How come we always see the same psy-hop? Always the same psy-hop.
Because it
Joe
works.
and Guido in Venezuela. They're always the great savior of a country. They're all puppet of the CIA. Let's just face it. Whether you like the regime, the theocratic regime or not in Iran, this is irrelevant. United States always pokes its nose everywhere to overthrow a regime that does not align with what they do. That's what they're doing since 1945. What is fascinating now, might makes right. The international community never really existed. Now the mask is off. Now it will be funny to see China, how China will react, how Russia will react. You want to play this game? You can be two to dance tango, and I can guarantee you on the international level there will be
All right.
a lot of people who will they will not, it will not go as business as usual for the empire.
So you mentioned how Russia will react. Let's segue into the Russia-Ukraine thing. Andre, what just happened with that Oreshnik missile?
Well, the Oreshnik hit the biggest gas reserve in Ukraine, which is 17 billion cubic meter. Half of it is gone. Half of it is gone, and 30% of this gas was to supply Europe during the winter. That will be funny how Europe will react. And three thermal power plants were hit near Kiev. So you have 50% of the Kiev citizens who don't have electricity, they don't have water, they don't have heating system, up to a point where the mayor Klitschko said we have to empty all the water system because they will freeze. And he's advising half of the population, which is what 1.32 million people who lives in Kiev, they have to move to their dacha. Half of them don't have nowhere to go. So it is quite what we're seeing now. When Russia hit this facility, gas facility, they said that message very clear. We will hit everywhere. And it is quite interesting because it's very close to the Polish border, very close. And it took 12 minutes to hit the target. That's a message. That's a warning. The next one, who knows? But it means stay out of my zone of influence, and it's a message to the Western the world. I think now. I don't know if Trump will understand the message, but it is either Witkoff or Kushner who were in Moscow. They will not continue to work on the peace agreement. Russia just made a declaration. They refused a 20 point agreement proposal. That's over. It is game over. But it was game over since many years. That's why I say next thing is NATO and the European Union. They're coming. It's coming. It's falling.
NATO has outlived its usefulness when it can't respect its own agreements, right? SALT 1, SALT 2, demilitarized zone, respecting the satellite nations as a buffer between, right? Even after the fall, of the Berlin Wall, it was important to physically restrain themselves from war footing and from posturing, and putting NATO bases inside these satellite nations is posturing, and Russia has an absolute right to feel threatened. It's not like the Ukraine establishing its own defensive line inside of. No, it's not. It's NATO, which is what, 14, 15 different countries collectively sticking their finger in the face of Russia. I'd be offended too. And so you add on top of that the cultural issues and the demographic issues and the history of the Ukraine itself. And NATO simply does not respect it. They just don't respect it. And I think that is a European problem, not a North American problem. And so if Trump says this is garbage, Russia's not actually my military enemy. I'm dragged into this because you fuckers in Europe can't keep your finger out of the pie. So if by pulling out the single largest financial and military and boots on the ground contributor to NATO kills NATO, so be it.
I think.
Well, go ahead, Peyman. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think Donald Trump, the way that he's mistreated Putin, has pushed him into a corner where Putin went out on a limb, and he said, I can work with Donald Trump, and all the hardliners said, no, you can't. And now he's been embarrassed, and I think he has to do something, and this might have ruined his political career, to be honest. The fact that he, I don't know, he shouldn't have trusted Trump. Trump was not a reliable person, and then it culminated in this Oreshnik bombing of the gas reserves. Like, he had to do a show of strength somehow.
It is funny what you're saying. His political career is 71 years old. You think he will have 20 years in power again? And don't forget one thing: Putin is a liberal. He's a liberal in the sense of he believes in capitalism. He believes in free trade. He believes on nationalism. And fair trade. That's why they created the BRICS. They wanted to go away from the hegemony of the G7 and the G20, who were always dictating their rules. And Putin is trying to be diplomatic. I can guarantee you he's criticized in his own country now because he's not aggressive enough. Many people are starting to say to Putin, now it's time to act. And the army on the front line, they're starting. Why do we fight in the Donbass since practically 4 years, and you're not finishing this? Do you really trust United States? Me, if I were an advisor of Putin, I would say, never trust United States. You do not trust them. You can respect them, but you do not trust them. And when you negotiate on that at this level, you have to. It's give and take. The fact that they attack the presidential residence, which was also a strategic command center. This is something that is not acceptable at this level. And the fact that he's using Oreshnik, he used Oreshnik 2 times. It was in 2024. The second one is he used it now, and he used many Iskander on some thermal power plant. The grid is completely destroyed. 70% of the grid is destroyed. That this is not, you cannot even restore this. It means that it is years of reconstructing. I'm a specialist in energy. I've spent all my life working on national grid. I can guarantee you this is not possible to restore the grid. Don't forget the gas depot was built during Soviet Union. Ukraine did nothing in 35 years, nothing. So Putin now is arriving at the point where he's saying, okay, we always draw the red line. The Russian, they're always laughing at Putin when he says, oh, we draw a red line. They don't believe Putin. They respect him, but they don't believe him. But now they're arriving at the point where Putin does not have any choice, and it is not Trump. It's his allies. It's his back. Patriots in Russia, they're saying, now it's time you act. Follow Soloviev live in Russia, and you will understand what is happening. Patriots are saying we have to hit. Follow. You can follow also Dmitry Medvedev, who's vice president of the Security Council. When he speaks, he's very sarcastic, Medvedev. But when he speaks for all the patriots in the back.
Can we? I
So
want to go to Tim, but I'll let you respond. But Doug Bebb says that the recent Oreshnik strike sends a message to the European elites that their bunkers can never be deep enough.
Exactly.
yeah, unless you're Macron and his wife says no, that's deep enough. So my thought regarding the
I
underground
can't edit
bunker-
live videos, Tim.
Beep. There, I have to stitch that in later. I see in my mind regarding this underground gas assembly. Okay, whatever it is called, bunker. That you're at the strategic, the strategic team, right? The forward strategic team is sitting going, how can we hit something that will have the most effect without actually triggering legitimate war measures? And they thought, well, there's this gas storage facility, and we built it like 35 years ago, 40 years ago. Oh yeah, okay, well, tell me more about this. Well, they haven't touched it. There's been no upgrades, there's no defense, there's no seismic anything, there's no cameras, and it's just in disrepair. It's not well maintained. So what are you saying? I'm saying I have the blueprints. Oh, you're kidding me. Let's do this. How we this is so because they know Ukraine, because it was Russia, or at least some of it, right? They know it. So they can look at a piece of territory much better than anybody else in the world and say, is this going to give a strategic advantage? Can we make a really big show out of the Oreshnik, which is a startlingly horrific capacity device? Because if I understand correctly, it doesn't take much to swap out the warhead for something with a little more punch, right? And they just do this. I think this is extraordinary. And I'm curious of how they're telling it back to the Russian people. This is what we did. This is why we did it. And they explain, because you want to get your people behind you, you tell them the truth.
Well, one thing that you have to understand, when I said the Russian people, they do not believe the government. Trump is a master in reality TV. Russian people are completely debil with information. They don't know how to communicate. They have this tendency of holding back, not giving information. And people are getting very, very angry in Russia because they're saying, we are in a special operation since practically 4 years and in 1 month now. And what did we achieve on the peace level? And they will start to push Putin. You mentioned the gas facility. Russia hit with the Oreshnik. There was no casualties, no death, nobody. This weapon can hit everywhere in minutes. It is not stoppable, and it says to the Western world, this is a warning. You do not continue on the same path. On the diplomatic side, I'm pretty sure the language of Witkoff and the language of Kushner are all the people that will try to negotiate with Russia. They will change their tone now because the game has changed.
Yeah, I think Russia has an opportunity to say, this isn't the June offensive. This is not Barbarossa. We know what we're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Clown World asks, who's the Russian political fellow you referred to earlier and is on X?
Which political? Oh, okay, Andrei Martyanov. Martyanov, he lives in the United States. He's a political military analyst. He wrote 4 books. He's an extraordinary man to follow because he's describing the structure of the Russian military complex. And he's comparing with the let's say, the US with military complex. He's an ex-Soviet Union military Navy officer. So he knows what he's talking about. He's not bullshitting people. He's always aligned with, Larry Johnson, Scott Ritter. They are people who were in military. Scott Ritter was in the US military. Larry Johnson was in the CIA. So they know what they're talking about. You can follow them. I do not always agree with them, but they have very good insights.
Gentlemen, we no Marciano, no.
André Marciano.
Yeah, he's like a little squirrely looking Russian. He's from Azerbaijan, right? The little guy, the Munchkin.
Munchkin, fuck off.
It's a tiny guy.
Clown word. You can send me a DM. I will send you the link.
We never talked about. We weren't going to cover this, but before we end the show, do you guys want to quickly talk about England? Because Starmer got into he got into a fight on X with Musk, and Musk didn't back her down. And England's getting out of control. It's got to be the worst country in Europe right now. Tim.
Okay, so I'll take a quick stab at this. Europe wants Britain back in the EC, the EU, all the things. Britain doesn't want back in until it can be king of the EU and all the things. And while it's doing that, it needs to put a iron fist down the throat of its own people. And it will use the problems and crisis of immigration and that cultural fallout in order to give it the excuse to do so. If enough people in the UK are using social media to communicate around, right, the general public language and public tools, newspaper, TV, radio, etc., then it is in the government's best interest to hobble those social media or corral them. The problem is Elon Musk, right? You can pay Zuckerberg. You can pay Zuckerberg. You can pay him. He'll take the money.
You can pay Zelensky as well.
Right? You can pay Zelensky as well. But you cannot.
You can certainly pay Zelensky.
Right? You cannot pay Musk because he's not doing this for the money because he has the money. He's doing this for fun. He enjoys doing this. He literally created an electric car company that dominated and changed the modern auto market so he could put rockets in the sky. That's what he did. Right. So regardless of his engineering capacity, his business ability, whatever, as the man on the hood of the ornament, right, the ornament on the hood of the machine that is his company, that is him, he's doing this because he can, because it's there, right? So he's Captain Kirk scaling El Capitan, right, while Spock is using the air boots to get up to him. He's doing it because he can. And therefore, Starmer, thinking he as little tiny king of Britain can back Elon Musk into a corner and make him play is a mistake. Musk, I don't think, has yet made a public statement or whether he's going to go and joust with him over the internet or not. But if Elon Musk starts pulling his corporate interests out of Britain, Britain will be in a lot of trouble because his personal wealth is the tip of the iceberg of the influence that he has in Europe. So Starmer will lose that battle.
Andres.
He already lost it. I will expand what you are explaining, Tim, and not the word to X, but the word what we call mainstream media and alternative media. I'm not on X, or I don't host a podcast since many years. I was always disconnect from this world, this virtual world. And this week there was a space hosted by Two Chicks in Politics, and I started to suggest that we have to federate the alternative media. And I started to refer to what you were doing, Tim, Borealis and Rubicon Free Press, and how we can structure and have a strategy. And I said, maybe we organize a conference. Why? Because if tomorrow they ban X, we are completely blind. It's either X, it will be Rumble, it will be Telegram. Russia now is banning WhatsApp. They already banned Facebook. You cannot use WhatsApp. You cannot use Telegram to communicate. You can use Telegram to comment, but not to communicate. They're starting to close the structure in Russia. United Kingdom is doing the same thing. They want to ban X. It's not only X. It's the fact that all those alternative media are undermining the model that is there since 50 to 70 years. They are threatening the model of propaganda. And I think by doing this in UK, it is a test. If it works, look at what they do with ID, digital ID in Australia. They want to impose digital ID because it is censorship. That's the only thing that they want to do. And they want to suppress all alternative voice. In my opinion, democracy does not exist. We see it live. And Musk is like the icon of this battle of titan between a system that wants to suppress speech and a system that says, okay, I do not agree with you, but I will let you speak. And they don't like X because X, a lot of people, they use meme, they mock those people. And why did I refer to Hermanus at the beginning? Those people, they don't like it when we make fun of them because they don't have high minds. They're stuck in a reality. They're just main puppets. And when they act like puppets, even if they are prime minister, they act like puppet. The king never likes it when the jester mocks him, but he permits him to do it. Why? Because it's the only way that people can have a voice. And I see it today. Starmer is like this man. It's like Merckx in Germany with boots on the ground in Ukraine. They have a posture of power, but they're so afraid of losing their privileges and their power that they are starting to sound, yes, democracy is totalitarianism. It's with a mask. It's with a mask. And we see it now. I think the battle between what is happening in the United States will reshift the global alliance and will have an impact on what we call free speech. What we see in China is not what is really happening in China with the famous social credit system. This is what the mainstream media want us to see. We go around the mainstream media and we're discovering another reality. And I advise people, do not listen or agree with what I'm saying. Test and challenge it. Go try the information. When I give, for example, if I refer to Martianov, I don't necessarily agree with him, but I say, go listen to him. And then after that, you can forge your own opinion, because it's not what is happening right now. And it's not only about X, it's about many platforms. And I was saying the minute they will start to suppress X, after that, YouTube will fall, Rumble will fall, Telegram will fall. We saw it, Pavel Durov, he was threatened by the French government of Macron that they wanted to have the back door in Telegram. And Pavel Durov was arrested in residence in France. They confiscated his passport because he refused to give the backdoor information.
So
it's much more complicated.
And finishing it up, Doug Bebb has a question. Let's all go around and answer this. How long before the pitchforks come out in the UK? In light of what Marco Rubio said about the UN, where he's like, I don't give a damn about UN. The White House put out a statement saying globalism is dead. I give it 30 days. I think 30 days is the maximum that the British can take. Tim and then Andre.
Pitchforks were illegal in the UK.
Cheeky. Okay, well, you forfeit your response, Andre.
Well, to answer Doug, the pitchfork, I think the pitchfork is the collapse of the international institution. Defunding them is the pitchfork. You say no money anymore. That's it. We get out of the IPCC, the climate change oaks falls. You have what, 30,000 lobbyists and experts in the United Nations that are producing report that are worthless. There was a man who said, okay, the next report of the IPCC on climate change, it is due in 2026. It will be 20 page. That's it. It was a 3,000 page report. It will be 20 pages.
I'm going to need an answer, Andre. How long before the pitchforks come?
Oh, how long? How long? Now they're debating for a general election in the UK. They have a debate now, actually, I think it will be tomorrow, and they will have a general election. the Conservative Party will be kicked out of power. Replaced by what? Maybe by a caliphate.
Farage?
Maybe it will be maybe by a caliphate, because UK now is practically is Muslim.
Do you guys want to know something crazy? The Green Party in the UK is rising in the polls. Can you imagine, like, the price of energy is going up, you've deindustrialized, and you're still stupid enough to vote for the Green Party? I'm sorry I'm getting animated, but these people, like, they don't deserve liberty.
Well, the average temperature now. It was funny because this little boy is. I think I made this joke. Little boy tells to his Ukrainian father, "Papa, Papa, why it is 14 degrees here in Kiev in our flat, and it is 27 degrees in Moscow?" And the father says, "Oh, it's because it is European Union. So they want to freeze. They want to freeze. That's it. No problem. You can freeze."
So we are already in 1984's Ministry of Truth, where they are rewriting history as we see it printed, and they are permitting social media, if not now, very soon, permitting it to operate in a hyper siloed fashion to monitor the outliers, and that's us.
The social media, they are the pressure valve. If you suppress it, the tank will explode.
That's
So
the
if
inevitability.
you let go a little bit of pressure, people, they stay in this tank. We all in this tank, and we exchange each other. At least we have influence, and we have the feeling that our life is useful. But if you suppress it and you block the tank, it will explode. Some people on X, they said, "Okay, you suppress X, we're on the street."
See, social media performs a task where you have the psychology of the complainer, where the complainer merely needs to get it off their chest. They don't actually plan to change anything. And the act of getting it off your chest is cathartic. You get your dopamine response. You're like, "Oh, I feel so much better now," but you're not actually going to go out and do anything about it. So that release valve, right? That's why you're a therapist, or you go to your priest, or what the other people that you talk to do this. You don't actually plan on doing anything about it, because the release valve that social media provides, the 15% of the population like us that live in these silos, that's useful. Like I said, and as long as you don't radicalize that group, you will not move them into the real world, where they will go and they will dip their pitchfork tips in poisonous frogs and then come get you.
Well,
So
one
yes,
thing,
social media is useful that way.
You talk about social media. I would say, we don't put a burden on the healthcare system, because we don't need prescription for antidepressant. So at least when I hack as a psychologist for you and Peyman, then you do the same thing with me, and vice versa. We have this. This is speech. This is relationship. Okay, it's virtual. I understand, but it is needed.
Yeah.
So I guess we can end the show there. This is a miracle. We've managed to cover everything we wanted to cover, and we've only gone about 10 minutes over.
Good.
So
we're going to do an office pool for when World War III starts.
Well, we'll start with you, Tim. What do you think?
Let's see. 3 months. Easter Sunday, 2026.
Andre?
Well, no, it will not be this year. I think we are not. The fruit is not ready. Some part will fall. I think European Union will fall. I think NATO will be dismantled or reorganized. Turkey said that they want to have a military agreement. They're starting to negotiate outside of NATO. Turkey, which is the famous joker of
the sick man of Europe.
The sick man, if you want. Or I don't think Erdogan would agree, but I think European Union and NATO will be, if they don't disappear, they will lose all their power, which is like an empty shell.
I think we're going to be fine as long as Donald Trump gets Greenland, arrests Mark Carney. I think we'll be fine. There's no war.
Mark Carney, I'm not sure. This is something. This will be something
Let me
interesting.
have my dreams, all right, Andre. It's just let me have my leave this Saturday for me, all right. I want to sleep like a baby tonight.
It's not Mark Carney I want to see on a pike, right? I want to see Pierre Polivier on a pike. I want to see Aaron O'Toole on a pike, and I want to see Andrew Scheer on a pike.
Wow.
Well, I mean, what about Lametti, Mendocino, Freeland, Trudeau?
Well, that's what the nooses are for.
Ronnie, Bendion,
That's what the nooses are for. That's what
Okay,
that's why I'm making. That's why I'm making rope.
They always say, if you want to make a list of dishonest people, it's much easier to make a list of honest people because it's more short.
Ron Paul. That's the only one I can think of that's honest.
Yeah. So
All right.
yes, Trump is what is that word? Untrustworthy narrator. Is that the line, right? Yes, he is, but he is the one narrating.
Clown World, if you start here, I would say the Second World War never ended.
Yeah.
I heard somebody recently say there never was a World War II. There was intermission.
Yes, exactly. That's good.
All right. Well, let's end the episode there. Tim, Andre, thank you very much. And a big thank you to the audience. Clown World says, yeah, good point, Andre. I think that was Tim's point, actually. But
yeah, it was Tim. It was Tim's point.
Oh, good. We all share equally.
All right,
we
gentlemen.
share equally. That way, y'all get to get the same beating I get.
Until next week, hopefully the world will still be here.
Hug your children.
Or alternative media.
Or alternative media.
Bye.